So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our analysis of July, which is very interesting. Okay. Because, as you know, Mars and Ketu right now are in Leo until literally July 28th, when Mars will move into the sign of Virgo. Okay. And literally, August itself becomes extremely interesting. But the thing is, the one thing, the way you want to understand, Mars and Ketu are in Leo, right? They make the sign of Leo into a very tiksha zodiac sign. The sign itself becomes very tiksha, meaning very sharp, very pointy. And Mars and Ketu naturally represents sharp objects, whether it's knives, whether it's needles, syringes. And what did you hear? What happened in France, I think last week, where a crowd of people, 128 people, were stabbed with syringes. And it happened at some party, a fun place. And what is Leo? Which house Leo originally controls? The fifth house, which is what? It's a house of children, kids. They were kids. It's a house connected with stage performances. That was happening. It's a house connected with fun and games. Okay, fun and game because it's romance. Leo is part of the romance. Okay, and romance, you got to remember, and this is where the concept of third from itself, we understand very beautifully. Why? Because third from Leo, the actions of Leo, like what? Okay, not even actions. The result, the subconscious of Leo, goes into the sign of Libra, right? And this is not even like transit thing. This is more of a general purpose. You can understand this. Very valuable. Is that romance, that fun, that love, the games of the romance that happens, suddenly excites you and gives result. What is the result of that romance? Ultimately, marriage, which is Libra, the unionship, the courtship. And Libra itself, remember, becomes part of the desire of the Dharma. So right now, with Leo, with Mars and Ketu being in Leo, their result is becoming the sign of Libra, but it's not Leo's fun, or you can say probably on a normalcy basis, like a way to go into a union. No, here Mars and Ketu trying to break. They're very tiksha, they're very sharp. Naturally, they're two very hot planets. Ketu's hot. Rahu is airy, like Saturn. This is why we compare Mars with Ketu and Rahu with Saturn. And so that particular result of that sharpness goes towards the seventh house. So in general, you see frustration between partnership happens because of the sharpness in the ego. And this is whether you can take government turmoil, people within the government fighting each other. You can see people within their own private life, and this is something I even posted on Facebook. Like you will see, I don't know if I deleted that post, but a lot of best friends will get into fights. A lot of people break up during this time. And why, especially during this time, the result of this Mars and Ketu, especially I would say till I believe July 10th, okay, becomes very significant connected with relationship, flaming and bursting of relationship. And naturally we are in year number 9. So this is the domain of Mars and Ketu. Because in the Navamsha, Mars is in Libra. Now, it's happening in the sky, right? The birth chart that we're talking about is the sky. Navamsha is not an astronomical chart. That's more of a mathematical chart. So what you do, you take that Mars in Libra, You can put it back into the birth chart. It's in the sign of Libra. And here Mars gets frustrated. Why? Because of the fact that Mars now has to compromise. Why? Because remember, sign of Libra, who's exalted in sign of Libra? Saturn. Why is Saturn exalted? Because you're supposed to serve in the sign of Libra. You have to give your duty, commitment, sacrifice in the sign of Libra, which is what? Marriage. Which is what? Can be a partnership, business partnership, one-on-one relationship, kind of like, let's say, for example, a lawyer to a client, psychologist to a patient. Okay? And in that relationship, one has to compromise. This is why Saturn is given that place, that Saturn has the energy and the duty. It has the natural DNA to say, yes, I'm at service, because Saturn is a natural servant. Mars is not. Mars is not a servant or order taker. Mars is a commander-in-chief. And if you see, commander-in-chief has a little bit of very similar status as the king. And if you notice this about, especially even the United States, what do we call our president? Commander-in-chief. Commander-in-chief, ever since US became independent in 1776. The president have been known as commander-in-chief. So actually, if you look at it, the presidents of US at least are more connected with Mars, Martian quality, than even Sun quality. Sun just can represent the government as a whole. Now, if you go, let's say, Middle East, Saudi Arabia, that's where you will have a true sun. Okay, so Mars, when it's in Libra, and especially in, like I said, in the Namamsha, it's its internal self, the true self of Mars. So when we walked closer to Mars, we're like, wait, you are leading in Libra. Your ego, your thrashing of the ego is going into the sign of Libra. And Mars doesn't, and this is where Mars is going to get frustrated. It's like, no, I don't want to listen to you. No, I don't want to compromise in this. And this is why you don't need to know the ascendant. This particular Mars, okay, leads to many disputes and arguments within marriage and relationship overall. And then what Mars does, and especially remember, and you will see, because right now Mars is in Libra, many people, even in partnership, will separate. You may even hear like companies breaking up. Okay? Because of the fact there's this very aggressive, impulsive energy. Because Mars just wants to do. Mars makes everything impulsive. It's like if something is a flowing current at 120 volts, Mars is like, no, let me add one more 100. Let's make it 240. And that's when the short circuit happens. Then what happens is, and especially this is very significant, I think till July 20th or 19th, where Mars is going to be in Scorpio. And Scorpio becomes a very dominant sign in the month of July. Why? Because the double transit of Mars and Venus will be upon Scorpio. Venus will be in Taurus, which you will see improvements in the markets overall. Okay? Doesn't matter how the real people are, or your real lives are, economically, financially. Okay, but Venus overall will give you that picture. Markets are improving. But Venus's 7th aspect, it's upon Scorpio. Mars's 4th aspect is upon Scorpio. And Venus is what? Venus is Sanjeevani. Sanjeevani power, meaning ability to bring a dead person to life. Okay? So when Shukracharya is in front, there's a person, the Asura is dying in front of Venus. What is Shukracharya going to do? It's going to revive. Mars' fourth aspect is the aspect of protection. Remember, Mars will always protect the fourth from itself. Why? Because if Mars is in the sign of Aries, controlling the sign of Aries, right? Fourth from it is the fourth house. What is Mars supposed to protect? And especially Mars also becomes us because it's the physical body, the original first zodiac sign that represents us. Mars is protecting the mother. The sun is there to protect the mother. The soldier is there to protect the homeland. Now, we have already gone through the whole scenario of wars and fighting, negotiations, this, that. Okay. However, with sign of Scorpio receiving this angle of Mars and Venus, okay, one thing you will see, because Scorpio naturally represents research and development. It represents transformation, death and rebirth. Okay. It represents security. So you will see some new measure connected with security becomes active. Whether it's the government or whether it's your private home, you will somehow secure something. Many people will go into the phase of development, whichever house Scorpio is ruling in your particular chart. So let's say Scorpio rules your fifth house. What is going to be the focus for some people? Let's say, especially if you're in your mid-30s, you're going to be focused on developing your children. Something new you will bring in your children's life that, okay, let's do this. Okay, I'm going to put you into this particular lesson. I need to develop you. Okay, and also protection. One also becomes overly protective of children. What are you doing? Where are you going? Who are you with? Which friend's house you're going to? Okay, and Venus revives that. It helps Mars. So this is how you have to tune in those two aspects. Mars is saying that Scorpio, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to protect the things that you are developing, things that are hidden underneath. And Venus is saying, I'm here to revive you. I'm here to revive you. So a big transformation is seen, especially on a regular public basis. Let's say you're watching it, right? You must have some ascendant. You must even have some moon sign. And every time somebody will ask me, should we look at our transit from the ascendant or the moon? Whichever one you like. Whichever one you like. Because if your knowledge is there and your intuition is there, you may not even ever look at ascendant or the moon. You might just look at it from Jupiter and you'll be correct. Somebody else is looking at the ascendant, they will be correct. Somebody else is looking from the moon, they will be correct. So you can use whatever you feel. Whatever your soul is drawn to, you go towards that. Okay, but Scorpio here with Mars and Venus's aspect finds protection and revival. You will see new security measures will be taking place. Rebuilding of certain securities. And especially this is also, you're going to see certain aspects of investment banking will be quite big. Some big change or some big transformation will come within investment banking sector. And you know what the best prediction to actually know here and make is that it's very undefined prediction. Why? Because nobody can define what Scorpio is going to give. Scorpio is like a well. Okay, very, very deep well. And so when you look inside, especially let's say you're looking at it at night, nothing. It's like a black hole. It's like your mini black hole from the universe. So what Scorpio represents is surprises. So it can do certain things opposite and like bring surprises. So a lot of surprises, like, for example, if in your birth chart, I don't know if I should say this because then I could be ruining some people's surprises. Let's say, for example, Venus or Saturn is in Scorpio in your chart. Okay? In Scorpio. Saturn and Mars are going to be looking at that. You're at that right stage of the marriage. You have somebody you're dating, and especially this applies for women. What could happen is your significant other can suddenly surprise you with a ring. Okay? They can suddenly surprise you with a ring. Because again, if you look at, just forget about even Saturn having the ring, right? This is why Saturn is exalted in the 7th house of Libra. It has rings. It says now you're bound within the boundaries of this dharma. And don't look at marriage as I'm with you, you're with me, we're a business deal, and we're going to have dinner together, sleep together, this and that. No, it is actually the dharma that brings you to marriage. Because it's the desires of the 9th house. 9th house is your dharma, the religious, the rituals, the seed of your pitri. Their desire is the 7th house. They want you to be bounded by that. Now, we're too maybe ignorant or pragmatic about, marriage, forget marriage, this and that. With the current atmosphere that is, especially because of social media, that has completely destroyed the fabric of, relationships. Okay? Seriously, they have destroyed the fabric of relationships. We have to understand these things at a much deeper level about the marriage, the commitment, becoming Saturn within the marriage. Okay? But like I was giving you an example, you got Saturn or Venus or both in the sign of Scorpio, you're dating somebody, you have been dating for a while, they can suddenly surprise you with the ring, like propose to you. Okay? Because, and this is why I said specifically Venus has to be there, because Venus becomes the lord of the sign of Libra. It is Libra that is being engaged. And Taurus, naturally, Taurus is value. Venus rules Taurus. Venus is in Taurus right now transiting. So something of value comes in. So when a woman gets that ring, the engagement ring or the marriage proposal ring, it's an expensive ring, goes into your finger. So this is how we can understand and learn this, connectivity. Now, on the other hand, again, it's like we just have no rest. We have no rest. When Mars moves into Virgo, what's happening? Go back and check. I don't know. I hope there's some AI model now. Somebody needs to create some AI model related to astrology. I'm actually encouraging you to do that. So this way, when we type, although there is, I think it's called Guru something. I don't know. I think there's a particular website that I came across a couple of times through help of my astrologer friends, where we can see what has happened when Mars and Saturn are either conjunct or opposite to each other or kendra from each other. And now this is why people say, it's so easy to make predictions about, because something is always going on in the world, some explosions, some things. And you're right, absolutely right. That is happening. Why? Because Mars and Saturn are going to be quite a bit in these particular angles of kendra, 1, 4, 7, 10 from each other or directly opposite to each other. Now, opposition, that's a very strong particular aspect. This is engagement of warfare, engagement of, suddenly exploding things. And this is why especially I would say, most people, I even said that on my Keras vlogs. Like, especially when I met the Pisces, when I don't know, and somebody else with another zodiac sign will not watch Pisces unless their moon was in Pisces. I was like, just until September. Okay. But then what happens is, and the reason why I'm saying this is because it's year number 9. Year number 1, life will go on in a different way. Although that's another thing. I don't want to discuss that right now. That's another very interesting thing. But We're in number 9, but then also when Mars moves from Virgo, goes into Libra, right? Goes into Libra. Now who is looking at Mars? Rahu, right? In the year of Mars. And Jupiter is a very fast moving, it's a very fast moving planet this year. It's going to go into Cancer, on November 4th or 5th. So whenever a planetary transit speeds up, especially the outer planets, Jupiter and Saturn specifically, when they speed up, their interaction is not so positive. They give very little, quick blessings come in of Jupiter. Okay. So then those things, but see, I'm not so much worried about that Rahu trine with Mars. I think that's just something you're going to see much more new innovations in either aviation and cars. Like, for example, like the Boeing accident that happened, right? So you will probably hear that, okay, Boeing is changing something new and they're doing this whole revamping of the thing, or you just never know. The worldwide government just be like, no more Boeing. You're going to shut down until you fix all this stuff. These things can happen. But that Mars and Saturn opposition, that's, that's, especially with Mars being in Virgo. And Mars does not like being in Virgo. It'd rather be in Libra than Virgo. Okay? Because Mars gets wounded and wounds in Virgo. Okay, so and then especially if you see, now, why is it Mars and Saturn? Actually, this time is quite important. What's the position of Saturn in Navamsha? Virgo. Now, put that same Saturn from the Navamsha into the birth chart. Virgo. And who's in Virgo right now? Or who's going to be in Virgo from July 28th? Mars. This is why it's intensifying. So Saturn is saying that, I'm looking at you, but guess what? I have a teleportation device. I'm going to be right next to you. This is why. This is why it's important to understand these dynamics. But, usually these dynamics, I don't use it many times in transit reading because they can become very negative. And I don't do any negative readings at all. Not because it's morally bad and all that. It's just due to my own chart. I can only go to a certain extent, and after that I can't. Okay. So obviously, if you need the transit reading, you can go to chaosastrology.com, where you'll find my books, reports, consultations. And then also remember, my Libra course is also active of blank chart predictions. And I'll look at the new charts of the people and students are showing their feedback. Because I've already proven in the last six courses that I released the feedback. So you already know how those things work. Okay, and I actually show the information of people, email information of people. So that's there. But see, because Saturn is in Virgo, so Saturn, who's a servant, okay, is in Pisces, but goes into Virgo. In Virgo, Saturn is literally at work doing its job, serving. And now Mars is with it. Mathematically, Mars is with it because we're putting that planet from the Navamsha into the birth chart. That's actually a very common principle to studying the Navamsha. You take the planet of the Navamsha, put it back in the birth chart. We're looking at the transiting planets. This is not somebody's birth chart I'm talking about. These are transiting planets that are going to be affecting each other because of these placements. Okay, and then the other thing, let's add on to this. Why is it such an important thing? Where's Rahu in Navamsha? Taurus. So then Rahu becomes trine from Virgo, exploding and making the situation of Saturn and Mars more vast. Okay. Now, if let's say you're an engineer, and I'm not talking about let's say you're unemployed, I'm talking about you're working, you're an engineer. This is an excellent time for you to actually quicken the pace of whatever you're working on. I can't see, and again, the term engineer has become quite loose. Now there's software engineers, data engineers, AI engineers. I'm talking about an actual engineer, the one who's like building some machine so you can do this work, or they're building some tool or machine for the machine itself, right? So let's say you have a hammer. That hammer is being made by a machine. Now, hammer is a tool, but you need another machine to make that hammer. People who are in those particular things, whether it's car mechanics, car engineers, EV, aerospace, bridge engineers, civil engineers. Yes, excellent period to see the progress quicken up. The progress quicken up. But one of the other things we also see with this, with Mars and Saturn, those engineers are going to be needed at a particular structure because let's say that structure falls. That's why. Okay, so again, and I think in this particular video, I'm being quite liberal and I'm pretty much being 50% of myself right now, but probably in July, I may cover your ascendant on Cares vlogs. Whether you can look at them from ascendant or you can look at them from moon sign itself. Okay. So I will look at it. It's just that I have to find time. I have to find Saturn. Okay. So anyway, guys, this was my analysis. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.